Okay, let's unpack this. It is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. And, usually when we talk about these pharmaceutical giants, we're sort of looking in the rearview mirror.
We're talking about what they did.
Exactly. The vaccines, the pills, all the history. But today, we are doing something a little different. We're looking exclusively at the road ahead.
Specifically at a company that finds itself at, a massive crossroads.
We are talking about Pfizer. We have the full transcript from their Q4 2025 earnings call, which just wrapped up. We've got the slide decks, the clinical trial data, the works. And the mission for this deep dive is to figure out, how does a company that was, the face of the pandemic reinvent itself now that the emergency is over?
And it is a reinvention. Make no mistake. They're calling 2026 a pivotal investment year. And frankly, they don't really have a choice.
They have to pivot.
They have to. They're staring down some huge patent expirations, what the industry calls LOEs, loss of exclusivity, coming up in 2028. They need new hits. And they need them, well, fast.
But here's the hook for today. To fix that revenue gap, they aren't just, tweaking old drugs. They're releasing data on something that could fundamentally change your routine.
A big change.
We're talking about a weight loss shot that you don't take every day or even every week. You take it once a month.
And that's the headline grabber, for sure, the obesity pipeline. But as we dug through these, 50-plus pages of transcripts, we found other things.
Oh, yeah.
Things that arguably matter even more. We found golden bots running factories. We found a kind of smart bomb for cancer that only arms itself when it sees a specific tumor signal.
It's a mix of heavy biochemistry and high-stakes business strategy.
Right.
So let's start with that big one, the news of the day, the obesity revolution.
Right.
If you turn on the TV, you know the names. Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound. These GLP-1 drugs have changed everything. But they all have the same friction point.
The injection, every single week.
Every week. And for a lot of patients, that injection fatigue is real. It's like a constant reminder.
It is. So Pfizer just dropped data on a new candidate, PF3944. And the whole value proposition is right there in the name, monthly maintenance.
So before we get to the results, which were actually pretty surprising, help me understand the science. Why do the current drugs have to be weekly? Why can't we just, take a triple dose of the current stuff?
It all comes down to how your body clears things out. Most of these GLP-1 drugs, they work by hitching a ride on a protein in your blood called albumin.
Okay, so albumin is like a taxi service just circulating around.
It's the perfect analogy. The drug hops in the taxi to stay in the system to avoid getting filtered out by the kidneys or, just broken down.
But I'm guessing there's a catch.
There's a catch. With the current drugs, for them to actually work to hit the receptor and tell your brain you're full, they have to get out of the taxi. They have to unbind.
And the moment they get out,
they're vulnerable. Your body starts breaking them down pretty much immediately. So it's this constant trade-off.
Stay safe in the taxi, do nothing, or get out to work and get destroyed. That sounds inefficient.
It's the limitation of the current chemistry. Now, Pfizer's chief scientific officer, Chris Boshoff, he spent a good amount of time on the call explaining why this new molecule is different.
PF3944.
Right. This molecule is engineered to bind to the receptor while it is still bound to the albumin.
Well, hold on. So it doesn't have to get out of the taxi? It can do its job from the passenger seat?
That is the perfect way to visualize it. It stays protected, avoiding clearance, but it's physically shaped to still reach out and activate that receptor.
How did they do that?
It's a really specific technique. They called it lipidation at the terminal end.
Lipidation at the terminal end. Okay, that sounds like something you'd hear on Star Trek. Break that down for us.
So imagine the drug is a long chain, 41 amino acids long, so it's a biologic. Lipidation just means they attached a little fatty tail to it.
Okay.
Usually scientists attach that tail somewhere in the middle of the chain, but Pfizer put it at the very, very end, the terminal end.
And just that placement makes all the difference.
A huge difference. Anchoring the tail at the end, it changes the whole geometry. It lets the drug anchor to the albumin really securely while the rest of the chain can kind of swing out and hit the receptor.
It's like being strapped into a bungee jump. You're secure, but you can still reach out and grab the prize.
Exactly. It's a wild piece of molecular origami.
So because it's protected, it lasts longer. Hence the monthly shot. But does it work? Because I don't care how clever the chemistry is if it doesn't lead to weight loss.
Well, the data from the VSPR-3 trial is pretty solid. They tested different doses over 28 weeks. The low-dose group saw 10% weight loss. The medium dose, 12.3%.
12.3% in about 6 months. That's competitive.
It's competitive. But their modeling suggests the high dose, the 9.6 milligram monthly dose, could get to nearly 16% weight loss once the data matures.
16%. Wow. That's right up there with the heavy hitters.
It is, and there was one detail in the charts that really stood out to me.
What was that?
At week 28, there was no plateau.
Mm.
You know how on a lot of these charts, the line starts to flatten out?
Yeah, the body adapts and the weight loss slows down.
Right. This line was still pointing down. Still, it suggests if they run the trial longer, the weight loss just keeps going.
Okay, devil's advocate here. If you're taking a month's worth of drugs in one shot, doesn't that just hammer your system?
That was the fear.
I mean, people get nauseous on the weekly shots. A monthly dose sounds like a recipe for a truly miserable weekend.
That was the biggest risk going in. They call it a four-fold equivalent dose. You're taking 4 weeks of medicine at once. But the safety profile was surprisingly boring.
And boring is good.
Boring is very good. No severe diarrhea reported. And across the whole program, get this, only one single instance of severe nausea or vomiting.
Well, just one person out of the whole trial.
It's incredibly low for this class of drug. And the proof is in the dropout rate. Usually if a drug makes you sick, you quit.
Of course.
But here, the discontinuation rate for the monthly shot was almost identical to the weekly one. 5 people dropped out of each group. Patients weren't running for the exits.
That is pretty compelling. Which brings us to the money. Pfizer says this is a $150 billion market. That's just a staggering number. But they mentioned something about who is paying for it that I found really interesting.
The out-of-pocket dynamic. This is a big deal. Usually pharma is obsessed with insurance coverage.
Right. If insurance won't pay, the drug is dead on arrival.
But Pfizer found that in markets like Europe, Australia, Canada, people aren't waiting.
Because in those countries, the government reimbursement process can take forever, right? It's a slow, bureaucratic mess.
Exactly. But consumers are saying, I don't care. They're seeing a high willingness to pay out of pocket in the, say, $250 to $350 per month range.
Which is fascinating. I mean, people will pay that for a gym membership or meal plans that might not even work. Paying $300 for something that does. It shifts this from a healthcare product to more of a lifestyle product.
And it bypasses the gatekeepers. It lets Pfizer build a market right away while the governments are still doing their paperwork. It turns the patient into a consumer.
So that's the metabolic side. But Pfizer isn't just a weight loss company. A huge chunk of this call was on oncology, and we have to talk about Seagen.
Right. The $43 billion acquisition, that was a massive bet. And 2026 is the year they have to start proving it was worth it.
The CEO called cancer research a battlefield, and they're deploying some new weapons from that deal.
They are.
One of the drugs that kept coming up was PADCEV for bladder cancer. And the way they described the goal of this drug, I mean, it kind of gave me goosebumps. They're not just trying to shrink tumors.
No, they're trying to replace surgery.
And we need to be clear about what that surgery is, a cystectomy.
It is the surgical removal of the bladder. It's a life-altering, often traumatizing surgery. You lose the organ. You often end up with a urostomy bag.
It just changes your quality of life forever. It's not just about survival. It's about how you live after.
Precisely. And the surgery itself has high mortality risks. So Pfizer is launching a new phase 3 study to see if PADCV is effective enough that patients can keep their bladder. They call it organ preservation.
I mean, that's the holy grail, isn't it? Killing the cancer without mutilating the patient.
It shifts the entire conversation, and it goes from how long can I live to how well can I live? That's a huge distinction.
Then there was a lung cancer drug, sigvotatug vedotin, let's just call it SV.
SV is much easier.
And they compare this against the standard chemo, docetaxel, which, from my notes, sounds like a pretty low bar to clear.
Docetaxel is a tough drug. It's used when non-small cell lung cancer has stopped responding to everything else. But, response rates are low, the side effects are harsh. It's a last resort.
And SV.
In single-agent activity, just SV alone, response rates were over 30%. In this patient population, that's remarkable. But the number that really matters is survival.
Right.
Median overall survival approached 16.3 months.
16 months. For refractory lung cancer. That's significant.
It gives patients time. And in this industry, time is really the only asset that matters.
Okay, I have to get to the geeky detail you flagged.
Yeah.
The bispecific antibody, molecule 4404. This sounded like something from a sci-fi novel.
This is for the true science nerds listening. It's an anti-PD-1 VEGF bispecific. So we know PD-1 inhibitors, they take the brakes off the immune system so it can attack cancer.
Right, and VEGF inhibitors stop the tumor from growing new blood vessels to feed itself. So this does both.
It does both, but with a really clever twist. The problem with attacking VEGF everywhere is that you have healthy blood vessels, too. You don't want to attack
You don't
those.
want to starve your healthy organs. That leads to side effects like hypertension, bleeding.
Exactly. So this molecule, 4404, it has what they call a cooperative binding mechanism. Preclinical data showed its affinity for the immune target, PD-1, increases 100-fold,
100-fold.
but only in the presence of VEGF.
Wait, say that again. So it binds tighter to the immune trigger only when it's near the tumor's food supply.
Yes. It's context dependent. It's like a security system that needs two keys. If it only sees one key, it's pretty dormant. If it sees both the immune target and the tumor blood supply, it locks on 100 times tighter.
That is just incredibly smart engineering. It targets the tumor environment specifically.
Sparing the healthy tissue. And they're so confident in it, they're skipping straight to global phase 3 studies for lung and colorectal cancers. They're not dipping a toe in, they're jumping right in.
Okay, so we've covered the biology. Let's talk about the machinery that makes it all possible. We hear AI on every single earnings call now. It's almost a cliche.
It is.
Is Pfizer just checking a box, or are they really doing something with it?
The CEO, Albert Bourla, was unusually specific here. Not just buzzwords. They're expanding their computing power to 1,200 GPUs over the next 2 years.
1,200 GPUs. That is serious horsepower. What are they doing with it? Is it just for drug discovery?
That's part of it, yes.
Yeah.
Embedding AI engineers right into discovery teams. But the use case that really caught my eye was in manufacturing. They mentioned something called golden bots.
Golden bots sounds mysterious. What are they?
Well, they didn't release the blueprints, but these are AI agents in their supply chain on their manufacturing floors. And the result isn't some abstract idea of efficiency, it's cold, hard cash.
Okay.
Pfizer claims these bots help drive approximately $600 million in savings in just phase 1.
$600 million. Just from optimizing the factory floor.
It's likely optimizing inventory, predicting machine maintenance, smoothing out supply lines. When you operate at Pfizer scale, a 1% efficiency gain is millions of dollars.
And they mentioned using it for regulatory stuff too, right? Like marketing materials.
Oh, this is huge for a global company. Imagine you have a brochure for a drug. It needs to be legal in France, Germany, Japan, Brazil.
All with different laws, different disclosure rules, an army of lawyers.
And months of work. Now they're using AI to pre-approve and check these materials against local regulations almost instantly. It just speeds up the whole commercial engine.
So AI is cutting costs, which is good because looking at the financials, Pfizer's kind of a mixed bag right now.
It is. Full year 2025 revenue was $62.6 billion. But the COVID cliff is real. Revenue from Comirnaty and Paxlovid dropped about 40% year over year.
We all knew that was coming. You can't sustain pandemic numbers when there's no pandemic.
Exactly. Those products will settle around $5 billion in 2026. That's the new baseline. But the non-COVID business grew 6%. That's the sign of health they wanted to show everyone.
But they also took a massive write-down in Q4, a $4.4 billion impairment charge. That sounds bad.
It sounds bad, but in the context of their strategy, it's actually pretty ruthless. A big chunk of that was writing down a bladder cancer drug called disitamab vedotin.
But why write it down if bladder cancer is a priority? We just talked about PADCEV.
Because PADCEV is doing so well, they basically looked at their pipeline and said, we have 2 horses in this race. One's a champion, the other is just okay. Let's stop spending money on the okay one.
So they cannibalized their own asset because the winner was so clear.
That is what they call ruthless prioritization. You can't fall in love with your science. If the data says another drug is better, you cut your losses and you move on. That $4.4 billion charge is the cost of focus.
So if we pull all of this together, a weight loss shot that lasts a month, cancer drugs that might save your organs, not just your life, AI bots saving hundreds of millions in the background, what's the big picture?
The big picture is that Pfizer is racing against the clock. They have those patent expirations coming in 2028, drugs like Vyndaqel for heart disease. They are taking all that COVID cash and just shoving it into R&D 20 pivotal studies starting this year alone to make sure these new drugs are ready to take the baton before the old ones retire.
It's a really high-stakes transition. But for you, the listener, the takeaway seems to be about the patient experience. We're moving away from the daily pill or the weekly grind. The future looks like monthly maintenance. Kind of set it and forget it.
And hopefully, with the oncology side, a future with less surgery and more precision.
I want to leave you with one final thought that crossed my mind. They mentioned they aren't just stopping at the monthly shot. They're testing combinations, stacking the weight loss drug with something called amylin.
Right, to get even more weight loss and preserve muscle.
It's like they're building a software stack for the body. Version 1.0 is weight loss. Version 2.0 is weight loss plus muscle protection. 3.0 is monthly delivery. If we're moving toward a world where our biology is updated monthly with an injection, are we healthy because our bodies function well on their own? Or are we healthy because we're subscribed to the best biological software update?
That's a profound question. It redefines the relationship. You're not just a patient anymore. You're a subscriber.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Pfizer's 2026 vision.
Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you on the next one.